It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday. Martin Freeman, Maddie Lasser, and Jason Kilburn in the Cogswell Motors studio. Thank you for taking time to join us today. We're going to talk local sports, college sports, NFL, NBA, major leagues. We're going to talk everything today, Jason. You came in on a perfectly jam-packed show.
That's good, man. It's always good in here to talk some sports, and it's always good when your team's on a 5-game losing streak and they got a bye this week. So
yeah, they're not going to lose.
They're not going to lose.
I said that on Monday. There is an absolute guarantee that although bye is favored by 3 points, that Arkansas will cover this week and win that game this week. No, only kidding. Arkansas doesn't play this week, so they don't have a chance of losing this week. I know there are a lot of folks who have let go of the proverbial rope. Houston Nutt threw us 10 years ago, and here we are in the midst of a slide. The Arkansas Razorbacks, 5 games in a row. We'll talk a little Hogs here in just a moment. But before we do, I've got to run down a bunch of different stuff that I want to look at today. We've got a CrossFit Russellville poll question that we want you to be involved in. Today is Wednesday, and as is our normal activity, on Wednesday we will give our power rankings, NFL power rankings, our top 5 teams in the league. And recognize that it's a what have you done for me lately type thing. We're going to sort of go away from that a little bit today. I know Jason and I talked about ours before the show, and he's got 4 of the 5 teams the same that I do, and there's a reason for the 5th one being different, and we talked about that before. And we've got a couple answers right now. Brad just answered on Facebook, and his are quite a bit different than ours. And by quite a bit different, I mean he's got one team way down the list from where we were going to have them. Because like we said, this is a what have you done for me lately type thing where, if you keep winning, you keep moving up. And you'll see here in a little bit, we want you to answer our CrossFit Russellville poll question. Where do you have the top 5 teams in your NFL power rankings? Some people will take this a little different than others because they'll just go with what 5 teams do you think are the best, and you're welcome to do that. But the way it's sort of done for us is more of a like college football ranking. If you think that Alabama is not the number 1 team in the country, and you have Oregon above them, they're both undefeated. Okay, if Alabama loses to LSU and you still think it was a fluke and they're the best team in the country and you put them at number 1 in the country, well, that's not how the rankings are gonna show. You're gonna have the team that beat them or whoever above them in the rankings. But we're interested to know what you think today. You can give us a call at 968-NEWS. That's 968-6397 anytime between now and noon. We want to look at the NCAA sanctions or lack thereof against Miami. I want to look a little World Series. Game 1 is tonight, and the top 10 NBA players list that ESPN put out. The season starts a week from yesterday, I think, on the 29th. So looking forward to the NBA. I like the NBA. Some folks don't care for it too much, and a lot of people even wait till playoff time before they pay any attention. But I like the NBA. We'll look a little bit at that. Even the BCS standings are out also. So, and then I've got a question for Jason, who follows recruiting a little closer than I do, that I want to ask him here in just a little bit as far as U of A recruiting goes. So we have got a jam-packed show, but let's start real quickly with our Peters Family Living local sports look. I want to say congratulations to the Russellville High School volleyball team, senior night last night, and they get 3-0 win over Greenwood. Congratulations to those ladies on a great job there in volleyball. And also, while we're talking about volleyball, the East and West junior high teams, we talked about the football, ad nauseum. We talked about the impact of making those 2 teams into one team and how, I disagreed with it because I thought that more people needed to be able to play and develop. They played their last ever regular season game last week, and then they met in the conference championship finals. I believe East won both. I may be flip-flopping those, but it was pretty cool for those girls to play, their entire season, I think the winning team was like 32-2 on the season, just an incredible volleyball record. And they go on to meet each other again in the conference tournament finals. And I think it was the East. I want to make sure real quick here in just a second, but the team that won the first matchup won the second matchup as well, and were able to win the conference championship. So a big congratulations to them. Jason, we've got a big week of high school football coming up, just like we pretty much always do. It's coming down the stretch in a lot of these conference championship races, and you've got teams playing huge, huge games.
Right, yeah. Pottsville travels to Maumelle this weekend, which will be one of the better games in the 4A, but not maybe even in the state. Pottsville has a running game with Michael Perry there, but Maumelle has their quarterback Robinson. I think he's a junior, and he's really good too. So it should be a really good matchup at Maumelle. And then next week Pottsville has another big game playing Boonville at home. So the next couple of weeks for Pottsville is really going to be see where they are in the conference standings.
Definitely, and I'll address that in just a moment. It was the East that beat the West. Thank you to Robert Prohaska for sending us all the pictures that he sent us. You can go to rivervalleyleader.com and scroll down and find those pictures there in our photo area. You mentioned that Pottsville, Maumelle, Boonville, Dardanelle, little conference battle there going on in the 4A4, and this week, Dardanelle's sort of undergone a tough portion of their schedule where they played Pottsville with no quarterback. They've played Boonville with no quarterback, and now they're going to play in the next few weeks. They're going to play Maumelle. So, and then Pottsville, you said, is going to Maumelle, and then next week they turn around and play Boonville. So, if Pottsville's able to win this week, it'll be Pottsville, Boonville next week for everything in the conference. So that's going to be a big, big deal there in the 4A4. We mentioned that Pottsville beat Dover last week. Got a 50-14 win over the Pirates. Does Dover play Waldron?
Dover plays at Boonville this week.
Well, do they play them on their schedule?
The last game of the year, I think.
Okay, well, please don't take this the wrong way. I hope Dover can beat Waldron.
Dover beat Waldron last year, and it was the only win Dover had last year against Waldron, who didn't win any games last year. So hopefully they can get another win there. Man,
I hate seeing teams around here like Clarksville a couple years ago didn't win a game, and I was just like, every week I was just like, please let them get somebody. Let them get somebody. I'm hoping Dover can do that. This week is not going to be that week. They're playing Boonville, and Boonville beat Dardanelle with a backup quarterback last week, and just basically pummeled Dardanelle. So
I think it was like
or week before last, excuse me, or was it more than a couple weeks ago?
When they played Boonville?
Yeah, when Dardanelle played Boonville. It was last
week.
Well, Dardanelle beat Waldron last week, so it was week before last.
Week before last, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
week before last when Boonville beat Dardanelle. Either way, Dardanelle's getting their guys back, and they're getting healthy. They're traveling to Subiaco Academy this week. So Dardanelle, 54-7 win over Waldron last week, getting Subiaco this week as they get healthy and come down the stretch there. Josh Price, happy with the way his team has come around in the 4A4. Russellville Cyclones fell to Little Rock Catholic 51-21. I was a little disappointed in that game on Friday night. They take on Little Rock Hall on the road this week. I said something, early in the season about how these Little Rock teams just weren't really that good. And, man, it's come back to bite me because every one of these teams has given Russellville a run for their money.
Yeah, and it seems like Russellville, man, they've got a high-powered offense and they can score on anybody.
Yeah.
But their defense is, I hate to say it, but, they're pretty horrible.
Yeah.
They've just been giving up points, all year long. They've been giving up a lot of points, and now it's finally caught up with them, and they can't score as many points as they can hold the defense down. So they're on a little bit of a losing streak. But, the quarterback Jones is having a great year.
Goodness, he is.
He is good. He's really good. If he was taller, he would probably be a D1 prospect probably. But with him being only 5'10", I think something like that, I don't think he of course, he got that scholarship offer last week, though.
Yeah,
but,
Lyon College.
Yeah. But, Russellville, they just got to find a way to stop folks, man.
Yeah, and I think that part of the issue is that they need to start faster on offense, too. A couple games that I've been a part of, they've gotten down earlier. They've just not started out offensively very well and got their defense a little bit behind the eight ball. But like you mentioned, you don't give up 51 points with the really good defense, so they're struggling a little bit there defensively. They got Little Rock Hall on the road this week. Clarksville, congratulations to my Panthers with the 36-29 win over Greenbrier last week. They travel to Harrison this week. they expect. Now I don't know. They expect to compete and possibly get another good win this week in that 5A West. The top half and the bottom half of that conference are worlds apart. You've got the Morrilton, Alma, Shiloh half, and then you've got everybody else. And it's the haves and the have-nots are very well separated there in the 5A West, but Clarksville looking to get another win and keep their playoff hopes alive. If they can win at Harrison, they've got a chance. I think Shiloh Christian is their senior night, and Shiloh put up 70 last week on Harrison, so they've got a chance to make some noise there, although it's going to be tough. I'm obviously rooting for my Panthers. Last week, Lamar lost 31-6 to Charleston, just a heartbreaker for those guys who got so fired up for that game. They know now that they can play with Charleston. The score doesn't necessarily indicate how close the game was played on the field. There were just a bunch of mistakes. It was a rainy night. It's no excuse, though. Lamar had 2 interceptions returned for a touchdown, lost a fumble, and couldn't capitalize on any of the 3 interceptions Ty Story threw. So that score got a little bit out of hand. But Lamar going to be second in the, I think it's 4th AAA conference, and they're going to have a playoff spot, still in the top 10 in the 3A state rankings, and they're going to be able to make a run at in the state playoffs there in the 3A conference.
Yeah, and when you're going up against Charleston, it's going to be hard to beat them. When you got Ty Story, a Division I quarterback, it's going to be hard. And like you're saying, they've got to capitalize on the mistakes that Charleston was coming up with. But Lamar is still a good team. They're 6-1 on the year, so they don't need to get their heads down. They just keep their heads up and they keep fighting, and they'll do good in the long run. Yeah,
they've got Danville this week on the road. The Little Johns will play host to the Warriors, and Danville having a little bit of a bad time of it right now. They lost 41-14 to Lavaca last week, so they're sort of in the middle of that conference. Not quite to the bottom, but they're definitely not at the top there with Charleston and Lamar. Atkins got a 28-21 win over Mansfield. They're traveling to Paris this week. That one would be a very good game, in my opinion. The Red Devils coming back from a couple of rough losses there. Man, they've lost a couple of really close games. It's nice to see them get a good close win over Mansfield. Two Rivers, 46-14 over Jessieville. They're traveling to Bismarck. The Gators looking really good in the AAA there. We mentioned Danville. Hector, 47-14 win over Union Christian. They're traveling to Decatur. Hector in the 2A. I know there are some really good teams, the Junction Cities and Risings and all those teams up there in 2A, but Hector's going to make a run in the state playoffs.
Yeah, they will, especially with that quarterback. He's a freshman now, so he's had this whole year underneath him. So he's almost a sophomore, maybe even a junior now. But with the running backs that they got too, they just like running it right down your throat, and that quarterback's hard to stop too. So I like Hector a lot too.
Yeah, I enjoyed.
That interview was good.
Talking to Mark Taylor, he was a good interview. It was a lot of fun. Some of these coaches, you have to drag answers out of them, or you have to ask them questions that are so open ended that they basically have to answer with some. Right. But he was very good. He was happy to talk about his guys and happy to talk about his philosophy and style. So I was glad to get to do that. If you missed that interview, you can go back and check our archives at rivervalleyleader.com for the Sports Blitz. But Hector is, again, traveling to Decatur this week to take on, what's Decatur's mascot? I just went blank. I don't even know. Decatur. And I think Hector's going to get a win. Since I said that, you should probably bet the house on Decatur. No, Hector's going to win this week, all right? I'm taking a stand. I was 1-4 last week, college football pick'em. Just terrible. Everything I picked last week turned to turds. But this week, Hector's going to beat Decatur. I mentioned Arkansas Tech falling 45-14 to number 5 Henderson State in the Boomtown Classic last Saturday. They take on OBU at 3 o'clock at home here at Thone Stadium. So get out there to Thone Stadium at Burkle Field. You can check out our commercial. If no other reason to go watch the Wonder Boys, you can check out the River Valley Leader commercial there on the big screen. We appreciate the partnership that we have with Arkansas Tech University, and that football game be a good one. On the side of just watching our commercial, you can check out the Wonder Boys playing OBU 3 o'clock. You don't have the Razorbacks on Saturday, so you might as well go over there and watch at Arkansas Tech. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back, so many injuries. I know your boy Russell Martin. It's Doug Martin, who I called Russell all day, and I even did it off the air and called him Russell Martin a couple more times. Doug Martin and some others are going through injury issues in the NFL. I know your fantasy team's hurting like mine is. I want to look at some of those players who are hurt, and we'll give you our power rankings right after this break.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
Still got a lot to hit today on the Sports Blitz. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday. Martin Freeman, Jason Kilburn, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Want to hit some college sports here in just a moment, NFL, before we get there, but need to make mention of a couple things. Decatur, it's the Bulldogs. Thank you, Jason, for looking that up for me. And then we talked about Arkansas Tech football. Arkansas Tech basketball, got a message from Coach Karlsky last night that said that they're sort of like a Midnight Madness thing, but it's a midday thing tomorrow on Thursday at Tucker Coliseum at noon. You can watch them, go out and watch them practice. It's sort of a, this is what we have type thing. They were, as Jason pointed out to me in the break, I remember seeing the email, but I hadn't written it down to mention it. The men were picked to win the GAC conference, replacing Jared Williamson, who was the tournament player of the year, or tournament MVP. They're replacing Will Paul. They're replacing Willie Kirkland. They've got the defensive player of the year back, and they've got Kendall Pinckney and some weapons back. But they're picked to win the GAC. The women are third.
Yeah, and the women, they're always good, but they've got like 8 true freshmen on their team, so that's going to be hard for them to overcome the youth there. But the men, he's got a good program going there, and it seems like they're, the last 4 or 5 years, they're always in the top 25. They're always, making a run in the tournament and playing good in the conference as well.
Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to Great American Conference basketball action because Arkansas Tech always in the mix. They won the All Sports Trophy 2 years in a row. Looking forward to trying to do it again this year. Basketball is always a big part of that, and then those spring sports will make a difference there. The Arkansas Tech doesn't compete in soccer. It doesn't compete in one of the cross country teams or one of the outdoor track type things.
I think it is track. I think
that
it's
they don't compete in. Yeah. It's like the women have a team, but the men don't, or something. I don't remember which one it is, but they get their points with basketball and baseball, softball, football, and then a couple of those spring sports that can help them. Tennis is a big one for them. They don't have a men's tennis team, but they do have a women's tennis team, and they have volleyball is also another good one. So looking forward to the Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys and Golden Suns competing for a Great American Conference championship. Let's switch gears. We talked about the NFL and the injuries that took place, and really the injuries, in my opinion, I'm going to give you our power rankings here in just a moment, sort of color where I place one team in particular in these power rankings, because you see the Indianapolis Colts. Now, you've got them at number 5 in your power ranking. I've got San Francisco number 5. You may be thinking, didn't the Colts beat the 49ers? Yes, they did. They beat them on the field, but I like you made mention of before in prep, I find it hard to believe that the Colts are going to be able to be as good when Reggie Wayne, in his 198, I think, consecutive starts, now out for the year with the torn ACL. It was a horrible week for injuries. Nothing you can do about most of them. Reggie Wayne was by himself, likely a touchdown if Andrew Luck was able to hit him in the chest with this ball and tears his ACL. Just a horrible week. Doug Martin, torn labrum. Russell Martin, something happened to him too, I'm sure. Just lots and lots of injuries that took place. Sam Bradford out for the year with the torn ACL.
And he was just running out of bounds too on that play. He kind of got pushed out of bounds.
Just crazy, all the injuries that took place over the weekend. And you see guys like Percy Harvin who's coming back, but at the same time, there are a lot of injuries that took place. Jamarcus Finley was in the ICU with a spinal injury. Apparently, there are talks right now about whether or not he'll ever play again, and he might need surgery before he can play again. So it's a sort of a scary situation, and there are a lot of things. Well, look, I'm looking here at ESPN.com, and it says that Doug Martin said that he doesn't think his shoulder injury will end his season. So that could be good news for some Doug Martin fans, although in fantasy football he hasn't done much of anything. He's been on my team.
I really don't want him to play. I want to get that number 1 pick. I don't know who we're going to draft with the number 1 pick. But,
draft a quarterback. Go get you Teddy Bridgewater. I like him. He's all right. I mean, that's kind of if he's the number 1 overall pick, I don't want to be like, no, he's all right.
Right. You want to be like, yeah, that dude's going to be legit.
That's the man. You want an Andrew Luck or RG3. Right. You don't want a Fisher from last year. He's like, we need an offensive lineman. Let's get him. Yeah. I'm kind of with you. Tampa Bay, really, it just depends on what the people need ahead of them. Because I think a quarterback is a big deal for them. They might like Mike Glennon. They may think that he could be the answer, but he's got a very long neck. I've mentioned that more than once. That should help him keep his head on a swivel. But let's look at our power rankings right now. I've got, I mentioned San Francisco at number 5, New Orleans at number 4, Seattle at number 3, Denver number 2. Yes, they lost, and I do still think they're the best team in football, but I've got to have them at number 2 because Kansas City is number 1. They have not lost a game yet. Yes, they play Denver 2 times in 3 weeks, and yes, I think Denver is going to beat them twice in that 2-week period, or 3-week period there. I think Denver's going to beat them twice, but I have to give them their just due. They're 7-0. They set a record for decibel level in their stadium at Arrowhead. They can make it a loud and hostile environment, and Kansas City deserves for at least a couple weeks to be number 1 in our power rankings, or my power rankings.
Right, and I'm almost the same with you. I've got the Indianapolis Colts at number 5. I have New Orleans at number 4. I've got Seattle at 3, Denver at 2, and Kansas City at 1. I got Kansas City at 1. They're probably not the best team in the NFL, like you were saying, but they're 7-0. They're undefeated. Yeah. They haven't lost a game, so I've got to keep them up there. Denver Broncos, man, they're good. I mean, and they're just now getting Miller back, so I mean that's going to help with the pass rush there. And, Peyton Manning's Peyton Manning, and he's got so many weapons on offense. Sean Moreno's starting to play good. So that's the reason why I've got the Broncos up there. And then everybody else, I mean, those two seem to be the top two teams in the NFL right now, are the ones that are playing the best. And then the Saints, I like them a lot. Seattle, they've won like 11 of their last 12 games or something like that. So they're on a hot streak right now. And then I threw the Colts in there at number 5. And it's hard to put them in there. But, like you were saying, Reggie Wayne goes down. So somebody's got to step up. And, Lord, I hope it's not Darius Haywood-Bay.
Dude is awful.
Yeah.
Oh man, as fast as he is, he couldn't catch a cold
Right.
in his underwear in Antarctica. I mean, he is awful at catching the football. And Reggie Wayne was talking on Sunday Night Football. They talked to Reggie Wayne, and he said, nobody spends more time catching off the jugs machine or staying after practice or coming early. But man, when it comes time, that dude is just just dropping balls left and right.
Yeah, and if the Raiders are going to draft you high, you can't be any good.
Yeah, you got to be fast.
You got to be fast,
but not any good.
That's right. Them and Jamarcus Russell, and I could just go on and on about the players they've drafted.
There's
high,
a long list.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I would have the Indianapolis Colts in this list. They beat Denver, and I thought that it was impressive what they did, although a little underhanded by their owner. But it was impressive what they did. But losing Reggie Wayne and the fact that the running game, to me, Trent Richardson has been a disappointment. I drafted him in the second round, thought I got a steal in fantasy football, and he has been a ginormous poop fest, just worthless on my team. I'm about to sit him on the bench and let him learn from his mistakes. But no, he's been awful. So I feel like the Colts are sort of beginning to be one-dimensional.
Yeah, and when I sent you when that trade happened, I sent you a text message.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, right.
And then I was thinking, my gosh, this is going to help them out, dramatically, and he's going to be able to be the back that everybody thought he was going to be. And man, he just has not panned out. He was so good at Alabama, and now he just doesn't seem like he has it.
Honestly, it gives me a little bit of credence to the thought that a lot of people are having about Alabama, that they spin their players while they're there. They're so physical and so hard-nosed and tough that by the time the players get out of Alabama, they've played 4 years in the NFL, or 5, and they've just been hammered into the ground. And the running backs, Mark Ingram has done nothing. Trent Richardson, he's slow. I mean, he's a linebacker with no speed. He's a big guy right now, and he's I don't know. He may have some years left in him, and he may get his legs underneath him there in Indianapolis, but it's just not looking good. Although he did have 1,100 yards last year, I have to give that to him. Brad Caldwell has Denver number 1 still in his top 5, Seattle 2, the New Orleans Saints 3, the 49ers 4, and the Chiefs number 5 in his power rankings. So that's what I thought was kind of interesting. He's got the Chiefs number 5. He doesn't buy it, and I'll be honest with you. I watched him play Dallas. They didn't look that great, but they're still undefeated. They have not lost. So I'll be interested to see where Kansas City goes from here. Brad's got him number 5, and he's entitled to his opinion. So he's got the Chiefs number 5, 49ers 4, Saints 3, Seattle 2, Denver 1, and we are joined now on the line by Old School Baller. What's going on, Old School Baller?
Hey guys, let's talk about something more pressing than the NFL.
Okay.
But when the playoffs get started, let's address our attention then. But we got a long way to go on this college and high school football stuff. I just like to express my sentiments on the Razorbacks. I'm really disappointed with the whole system up there. I see us going backwards right now. We're not getting the effort. We're not executing. Seems like we've quit. And that's nobody's blame but the coaching staff up there. I think we got the wrong coach, and I'm ready for him to hit the road.
Already?
Yes, I am. He can't win with that system. You can't run the football at the heart of Alabama, LSU, the strong defenses, Georgia. We can't do it with the 2 and 3 star recruits we get, and we're not ever going to get the talent that those teams have, or we haven't in the past. I don't see it happening. I'm just extremely disappointed. I don't know what to say. I'm looking at Ole Miss and Auburn with a whole lot more enthusiasm than I used to, simply because I like their coaches. And also, I can't understand. I peruse the Arkansas Dem Gazette occasionally, not as much as I used to. I can't spring must have to pay $1 every day for a paper.
Yeah.
But why does the AP not recognize Pottsville and Boonville in the 4A rankings? I mean, they're not even mentioned. And I think they're, the elite, some of the top elite teams in the 4A conference. And listen, Mark, did you ever find out a legitimate reason why Atkins and Pottsville dropped the games that they had, the schedule change? Why are they not playing anymore? I'll hang up and let you go, guys. Hey, by the way, Cardinals in 6.
Cardinals in 6. World Series starts tonight. You've got was it Wainwright and Lester going to Game 1. All right, well, we've got him on the record here. You guys can stamp that, timestamp today, and we'll keep this for future reference. Thank you, Old School Baller. Well, I did ask a couple coaches from Pottsville about that Pottsville Atkins rivalry, and it's sort of they won't answer the question. They won't give you one of those. They know who I am and what I do, so they won't give me one of the what they want to say. I think it's one of those they don't have anything to gain type things. Well, if Atkins beats Pottsville, oh my goodness, Atkins beat Pottsville. If Pottsville beats Atkins, well, you're supposed to beat them. It's kind of like Lamar and Clarksville in basketball and football.
So kind of like A-State and Arkansas in football?
Exactly. It's exactly like that. Clarksville and Lamar are playing in football next year, and it used to be that Clarksville was like, oh, it's nice, little brother, and now Lamar is better in football than Clarksville. I honestly think if they played this year, Lamar would win the game.
You're probably right.
Now in basketball, it would be massacre every year. It would be murder. And I remember back in, I think it was 2005, when Lamar beat Clarksville in basketball, that's it. They just stopped playing. There's nothing to gain for Clarksville in playing Lamar, because if you beat them, you're supposed to beat them. If you lose to them, my God, you lost to them. How did you lose to them? So there's nothing to be gained for Pottsville in this case, except for I would like to see, area tournament. I don't want to call it the Pope County tournament, because I'd like to see, Dardanelle and Clarksville and all these local teams sort of play in basketball and maybe play each other in football. They do in junior high. They sort of play in the same conference right now. But I'd like to see them all play each other in a basketball tournament every once in a while. Now, Clarksville's in the 5A, and right now they're at a pretty high level. But in the next few years, they'll sort of come back down to earth, I think, as far as the talent level, and they'll be a little bit more comparable to some of these other teams. So I didn't really get the answer that I think a lot of people were looking for from that. But nevertheless, addressing Old School Ballers' thoughts on the Hogs, I think I'm as disappointed as anybody. I don't know that I'm ready to pull the plug on everything yet.
No, I don't think so either. You've got to look at his track record when he was at Wisconsin. I know the Big Ten's not the SEC, but he was a winner there. You don't go to 3 straight BCS bowls for nothing. Your team's got to be good. You got to have some kind of coaching ability or something. And I told you earlier in the week, or it might have been last week, that I thought what Arkansas has coaching-wise at Fayetteville is the best coaches Arkansas has ever had there.
Yeah.
Now, the style of play is going to be dramatically different than what Petrino has had. Petrino was a all pass heavy, which Nile Davis did have 1,000 yards, but most of the time he was airing the ball out. Now you've got a style now that it's just run, run, run. And it's hard to recruit, too, when you've got 3 different coaches in 3 different years.
Yep.
And he's got a bunch of young talent. You've got to be able to look at what he's done when he was in here recruiting-wise since December. He came in, I think, November, December of last year. And, for the signing class that he signed in February, you've got to look at Reeve Collier, who's probably going to be starting next year at center. You got Denver Kirkland, who's starting now. You had Dan Skipper, who's starting. He brought in Alex Collins. So the talent he's getting is there. You've got to give him time, in my opinion. I'm probably one of the biggest Razorback fans out there. And I bleed, everything Razorback. But I think you've got to give him time, And if he's not successful in 3 or 4 years, then maybe you can run him out. But man, you've got to give him time to get his players in here, to get his style in here, and get his mindset in here. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm a bit, Arkansas was most successful. Let me say one other thing real quick. Arkansas was most successful when they did spread the ball out when they had Petrino. They won 21 games in 2 years, and that's, I think, the most wins in a 2-year span since the either 60s, late 60s or early 70s. So I think it is best to spread it out, but his track record at Wisconsin is just, you've got to look at that. You can't just say one year that he's having a bad year, because if we would have done that, we would have got rid of Petrino the first year, because he went 5-7.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to give him time, and I think in time that he'll get his players here. Now, if that's going to be winning an SEC championship every year, probably not. But I think in a couple of years we can be 10-2, 11-1 maybe, but most time it's probably going to be 8-4, 9-3, and it is hard because you're talking about the SEC West, which is, if we just had the West was just its own conference, that's probably one of the toughest conferences in football anyways.
Yeah.
With Alabama, LSU, you got Texas A&M coming aboard. I think it's just hard for I just don't want the fan base, everybody just to jump off board right now. Just give him time. Just be patient. It's going to take a while. He'll get his players in here, and I think he'll be successful.
See, I think that's one of the most frustrating parts about it. I was the last person on the planet off the Houston Nutt bandwagon. I really was, because I wanted to see it was just so close here and there. You get to the SEC championship game against Florida, and you fall. You see how good your team can be when you put in the Gus Malzahn offense. I wish that Gus Malzahn had not been run off and done the way he was. And we found out a little bit about Houston Nutt, the type of person that he was. And I'm not saying that he was a terrible guy, but he was a control freak, and it just didn't quite work in that aspect. But for me, Brett Bielema, it's scary. I understand for fans' perspective that it's scary when you've got a coach that you think it's going to take a few years to really change things over, because you're wasting those years. And then, what happens if you give him 2-3 years and then it doesn't happen, and then you have to hire somebody and you do this all over again? You set your program back 10 years, like Chuck Barrett said was going to do whenever you fire Houston Nutt and bring in Bobby Petrino. It didn't quite work out that way, right, and it was worth it. But to me, with the coaching staff that's been put together, I'm glad you pointed that out. It's the best coaching staff Arkansas has had in many, many years. Now, you can go back to the Frank Broyles tree and some of the coaches that he had on his staff, but this is one of the best. But you got recruits. One thing that's worrying me, and we got to hit a break, but one thing that's worrying me is that you've got recruits looking around, and guys that Jermaine Illuminor, who was a top offensive lineman recruit, it talks like he's looking around. Jovan Pruitt, I'm wide open. This type of stuff. I'm still committed, but I'm wide open. I'm going to take these visits. I understand taking your visits and getting, basically paid to go on a trip. You get to go watch a team play and get free food and hang out, and I can understand doing that, but it's shaky as far as that goes. If you've got a staff like this that's supposed to be great recruiters and then they can't recruit, that's going to be a problem. So if the recruiting classes in the next couple of years don't look good and it doesn't show up on the field, I'm all for scrapping it. I do want to wait a little bit before we do that, though.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And the recruiting class, it's just like I was saying, it's just hard to recruit to Arkansas. I don't care who coaches it. If maybe if Saban was here, it'd probably be a little bit different. But it's just hard to recruit Arkansas. Every coach has always said that. But like you're saying, that Illuminor, he needs to come. He would probably be starting next year. Pruitt, he had offers from Alabama and he committed to Arkansas. So I think that he can get his players in here, and I think the ones he has on board are going to be good in time.
All right. Well, we may look to a little bit more Hog stuff here in just a moment. I want to look at a little bit more college football. We've got the World Series and that NBA top players list. Did you see that Jackson State is suing Grambling for canceling basically their homecoming? Jackson State's homecoming game was canceled because Grambling's players rioted. I would say rioted. They revolted and decided they weren't going to play. We'll look at that and much more right after the break.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville, online at petersfamilyliving.com, or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Back on the Sports Blitz on a Wednesday. Thank you for joining us at RiverValleyLeader.com. Mark Freeman, Jason Kilburn, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio for the Sports Blitz. Well, I don't know. What do you think about Jackson State? I talked about this before the break, and we mentioned it a little bit before. Grambling, bad playing conditions, 12-hour bus rides across the country when they can't really fly. Just some bad conditions there at Grambling. They're in some financial distress as a university and an athletic department. The players basically said, we're not playing last week. We're not playing Jackson State. Sorry, we have to take a stand sometime. They didn't skip a home game. They skipped a road game to Jackson State, and it was Jackson State's homecoming. Jackson State says, look, we've got a responsibility. We've got bills to pay, basically, and that was going to bring in a bunch of money, and you cost us a bunch of money on homecoming. We're going to sue you. What do you think about Jackson State suing Grambling? Did not see this coming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do in that situation. Yeah, I mean, I guess you do some because you probably would have got some, money coming in, but...
Oh, they'll win. I think they'll win a civil case as far as get some money out of it. I don't see how they don't.
Yeah, but, for Grambling to do that, that just amazes me. They walked out of practice like 2 or 3 days in a row, They got their coach got fired, then their assistant got fired, and then they brought in somebody else. All this happened within a week span here, and it's just crazy to me that a team. I understand that there's going to be tough conditions, but you probably knew that when you went to Grambling. They're not going to be in Arkansas or another SEC school or a big time Division I school flying there or whatnot. It's probably going to be tough. But it's crazy that a team would do that.
Yeah, to me, the harsh thing to say is, well, if you don't want to have to deal with bad conditions, get better and don't go to Grambling. If you want to fly, go D1. If you're not good enough, don't complain about a bus ride.
Right.
I would have been happy. I would have been happy to have been good enough to play and ride on a bus for 12 hours.
Sure. Right.
Just saying.
Right.
and I was hypocritical here because I'm talking about how bad our high school bus rides were going to Siloam and stuff. But no, that's the mean way to go about it. But at the other side, I think, they got to stand up for themselves. They're dealing with some pretty crappy conditions, and I don't understand them skipping I'd skip a home game, so they didn't think about this. They're college kids, and if you heard the guy who was reading their announcement, he was like, we had to make a stand for. find somebody who can read, please, when you're giving your announcement about why you did what you did. But long story short, it's just going to be a big mess, and Grambling is in even worse trouble now.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to say.
Let's switch gears. That's a tough subject. The BCS standings, first BCS standings, came out on, I guess it was Sunday afternoon, and no surprise, Alabama number 1, taking on Tennessee this week at home. All of the top 5 teams in the BCS are home this week, but it was kind of, I don't want to say a shock. It was a weird thought, looking at the top 5 teams, where people are placed. Florida State's number 2. They jumped Oregon. A lot of people thought Oregon or Ohio State vying for that 2 spot. No, Florida State, on the strength of that beat down on Clemson that they put on Saturday, jumped Oregon and Ohio State into number 2. Oregon number 3, Ohio State number 4, and Missouri number 5. Like I mentioned, Bama playing Tennessee, Florida State playing the Fighting Brandon Mitchells this week, and NC State, who Brandon Mitchell is coming back to start this week from his broken foot. Oregon facing number 12, UCLA at home. Ohio State facing Penn State. That'll be a good game. And Missouri, number 5 in the country, facing 21, South Carolina. Those are going to be, for the most part, I don't think Bama or Florida State are in for any sort of test, but those bottom 3 teams there in the top 5 are going to have some good games. And it looks like, you're looking at the Missouri schedule, their schedule is about to get real.
Let me check.
Now, they already did beat Florida and Georgia, right? Did they beat Georgia?
They beat at Vanderbilt was a big win. At Georgia they won, and then they beat Florida last week. But they play South Carolina this week, tough game. And then the next week they play Tennessee, Tennessee's starting to play good now.
Yeah.
And then they go to Kentucky. That's probably going to be a win. And then at Ole Miss, tough game. It's always hard to win at Oxford. And then you got Texas A&M at the end of the schedule. So there's, 4 tough games in there that Missouri might come back down to earth, and be not ranked as high as a number 5, which I couldn't believe that. But you said you thought Missouri probably going to beat South Carolina this week.
Yeah, well, just because I don't want to bet against them, because I'm not a big Missouri fan. I heard Gary Pinkel on yesterday, and I have a little bit more respect for him than I did before just watching him on ESPN. But I don't trust them as far as, it's sort of one of those old uppity SEC attitudes, but I feel like they haven't really proven anything now that they've beaten Georgia, who is decimated by injuries, and Florida, who doesn't have a starting quarterback, and their defense was their offense was horrible. Missouri did put up 36 points on a good defense. South Carolina is basically the last hope for me of a team that I think is just going to be able to punish them. I do think Texas A&M can get them at the last game of the year, but my goodness, if Missouri keeps this rolling, they come into that game against Texas A&M undefeated. Well, they got a lot to play for. They're playing for BCS and national championship game implications, especially depending on what happens November. I guess it's the 9th there when Alabama and LSU play. If LSU gets Alabama, Missouri's looking at, we can be in the national championship picture right now. So, man, it's going to be interesting.
And that Texas A&M game is at Missouri, so that place would be going crazy if they win the rest of these games. Which they're winnable, but they're also losable. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And Mock played great against Florida, but who says he's going to turn around and do that again? It's hard for a redshirt freshman to come in there and play, but of course he was highly recruited coming out of high school. But they've really got my attention, but man, they've just got all the breaks so far.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I want to see what they do against South Carolina this weekend and see where they go from there.
Looks like Arkansas's signature win of the year. It's not going to be Southern Miss. It's not going to be Samford. It's going to be Louisiana Lafayette. 23-7 winners over Arkansas State last night to move to 3-0 in the Sun Belt, 5-2 overall. At least the Hogs can hold their heads high and say, we beat Louisiana. We beat the entire state of Louisiana. That's what they're calling themselves now, right? Louisiana. Mm-hmm. Louisiana Lafayette got that win last night against Arkansas State. Let's look real quickly across the wire because we want to hit the NBA in our last segment, and we are due a break. But tonight, 7:07, Game 1 of the World Series, St. Louis and Boston. If I were to guess, I'd say, man, Boston is they're very, very talented, and they've come back from what looked like to me Detroit had the better team early on in that series, and Boston comes back, and every time they need a big hit, it's a grand slam from Victorino, or it's a grand slam from Big Papi. Big Papi and Little Papi. But I've told you for the last couple months that I'm slowly turning into a Cardinals fan. I'm not a baseball fan at all, but the way they go about their business, I really like. Waka has been incredible this postseason, and then Wainwright going tonight. I'll be rooting for the Cardinals, but it's one of those things where I hedge my bets a little bit, and I probably shouldn't do this as often as I do, but I'll be picking Boston to win in 7, home field advantage and all with that stupid all-star game crap, but I'll be rooting for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I'm sure Rockin' Robin's just doing backflips right now. His Cardinals have made the World Series.
Well, he knew it. He told me, in April they're going to win the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably going to do it next year too.
Talking about Robin Richardson, you ought to read our story at River Valley Leader about him. Actually, funny story. I ran into him at the courthouse, and I had my shirt on. He goes, "Hey, they put me on their sports page." I said, "Yeah, they did." He goes, "I said, what'd you think about it?" I loved it. Oh, I love that. Was awesome. That was. I just love that. And I said, "Thanks." Turned and walked out. I was like, "Man, I feel proud of myself because that was me. I didn't write it, but I signed it."
Right. There you go.
That's half
close
battle.
enough, isn't it?
Ryan did a good job writing that story. Anyway, back to the World Series.
It should be a great matchup. The two best teams, the best team in the record-wise was Boston in the American League. Best record in the National League was St. Louis, which is weird because they both tied for the exact same record overall. So it's pretty interesting that you got the two best teams in baseball going to play for it all. And man, Big Papi, and they got their offense I think is better than the Cardinals, but I think Cardinals has a better pitching staff. So
and they scrap. They scrap and they get it done.
They're scrappy, yeah. And Beltran's been playing pretty good lately too. So I'm probably going to go with the Cardinals, and I don't know if that's 6, 7, 5. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're going to win it, 6 probably sounds more likely than going back to Boston. Winning Game 7. So I understand that. Finally, here in The Wire, ESPN.com's got a story. You ought to go read it about a coach accused of bullying after winning a game 91-0. The other team got their panties in a bunch, and really there has to be some panties involved if you're talking about suing a team for bullying after a 91-0 win. But the coach came on ESPN.com or ESPN yesterday saying basically the coach came to me after the game and said, "Thank you for not beating us, putting up 100 and whatever you could have put up." But number one Class 4A team in I guess they're in Texas. Where was it? Is it Texas? I think it is. Won 91-0, led 56-0 at the half, and was really trying his best to not put up that many points, put up 100 points when they really could have. So that was an interesting take there. We'll come back and we'll talk about another interesting thing that I saw ESPN had. It's their top 10 NBA players. NBA season tips off in 6 days.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Final segment of the Sports Blitz. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I wanted to look at this ESPN.com top 10 rankings of NBA players in the league right now. I thought it was very interesting because they've got LeBron James number 1, Kevin Durant number 2, Chris Paul number 3, and then it gets a little interesting. James Harden number 4 over Russell Westbrook, who's number 5. Almost said Del Curry. Stephen Curry number 6. Dwight Howard, number 7. Kyrie Irving, number 8. Derrick Rose, number 9. And Mark Gasol, number 10. Jason, I'll throw this to you, but before I do, no Kobe Bryant in the top 25, which means that they've got to be factoring in injuries,
Right.
which if they're factoring in injuries, Russell Westbrook is number 5, and Derrick Rose is coming back off this injury. Now, I know he looks great in the preseason, but he's number 9, and then you've got no Dwayne Wade, who I think is better than Mark Gasol overall as a player, no Darren Williams, and no Carmelo Anthony. Those 3 guys right there alone, I think, are good enough to any one of them bump off Mark Gasol, but they've got him in the top 10. He was the Defensive Player of the Year last year. He looked good, but I've got some questions about this top 10.
Yeah, I do too. I'd probably have Rose a little bit higher. I know you're not high on him, but I'm a big Rose fan. I think he's one of the.
Well, who would you move? I mean, would you just move everybody down from?
First of all,
somebody?
I'd take Gasol out.
Yeah.
For sure. He's not a top 10 player. If anything, I'd have Kevin Love where Gasol is.
Yeah, I like Kevin Love.
I think Kevin Love's a lot better player.
I was
than
talking
Marc
about this
Gasol.
with Pottsville coach Garrett Hill last night. Pottsville assistant high school coach and junior high coach. He said that he had Kevin Love in his top 10 too. So.
Yeah, and,
But he's a Dwayne Wade fan, and he didn't even mention Dwayne Wade either, so that's kind of shocking to me.
See-
D-Wade still averaged 21, 5, and 5 last year. And he was busted down.
he's coming down, man. Dwayne Wade's not Dwayne Wade of old. You know, he doesn't take it to the hole like he used to with authority.
We'll see. I hope the stuff that he did this offseason affected him in a positive way. If it didn't, the Miami reign is over. Just all there is to it.
Right.
They can't win it without him.
No, you're right. You know, you was talking about James Harden. I probably wouldn't have him that high.
Yeah. So would you have Westbrook ahead of him?
I'd probably have Westbrook ahead of him.
See, I like Russell Westbrook. A lot of
I do
people
too.
don't. I know he's one of those talk about volume shooters. And when I talk about Derrick Rose, I talk about how he's a volume shooter. Derrick Rose also isn't guarding anybody, in my opinion. You may think of him as a better defensive player than I do, but I've got Russell Westbrook as a guy, in my opinion, he doesn't set up his teammates very well, but he does play with the leading scorer in the league, so he's obviously not doing too bad. He shoots the ball in some situations too much.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't give the ball to Kevin Durant as often as I think he should, but he's also a lockdown defender. He's a guy who he can play defense. He can get rebounds. He's a very versatile player. In my opinion, I agree with you. He's better than James Harden, maybe just for one more year. If James Harden was to prove it again and basically go out there with Dwight Howard on his team and still put up that 25 to 28 points a game, get some assists, get some rebounds, and really just be an all-around player, I could see him surpassing Westbrook, but I'm with you right now. He's not quite there.
Yeah, I know you like Dwight Howard, but I probably wouldn't have him number 7.
I don't love him.
I don't think he's the 7th best player in the NBA.
See, I think he's better than Steph Curry.
See, I like Steph Curry.
Yeah, see, the reason I don't like Steph Curry as much is the same reason. And you're listening to a guy who does not like to play defense. When I play basketball, I hate playing defense. You play with me at the fitness center, I'll do a whole lot of shooting, not a whole lot of playing. I hate it. But when I'm looking at NBA players, I look at what I want to see and not what I am necessarily. So I'm a hypocrite. But looking at Steph Curry, he did average nearly 8 assists last year. When you pointed that out to me, I was like, whoa. But to me, he's sort of more of an offensive player. He doesn't do much on the he's a liability. They ran more zone defense than anybody last year. So I've got Dwight Howard, who was the leading rebounder in the league. He'll be back to leading the league in blocks with all the possessions that the Rockets are going to get this year, and he'll still average nearly 20 points a game. He's going to be a top 5 player in my opinion.
Yeah, and the thing with Howard, though, man, you foul him, and he's kind of like the hack-a-shack.
Seriously.
He's not going to make a free throw.
Yeah.
And another play, I don't know where I'd put him at, but who I really like a lot is Darren Williams.
Yep, not on the list.
I don't know if he's a top 10 player, but I think he's on the verge of being in that 8 to 10 maybe group or something.
Let's do this. Let's do this on Friday. Let's do our top 15. That way we can show where we put these people and we can move them around, because I've got a couple of people that I would move around in my top 10, and the top 15 would get interesting, because down you get about 14, 15, then you're having to, I would put Marc Gasol in the 15 range. He's definitely not in the 10 range for me.
Right, I agree.
And there are a couple guys who I'd knock off this and put in this, and that'll be fun. Looking at Kyrie Irving in the coming years, I think that's a lot about potential, less than what he's so far done. He's been good. He was good last year, but it's sort of Kyrie Irving's the future, and he is the future, but we're talking about the present. So we'll talk about it a little bit greater depth. The reason we're doing this, the NBA season tips off on the 29th, so I guess next Tuesday you're going to see the NBA begin in earnest, and I'm looking forward to it. I love the NBA, and it's getting to the best time of year where you've got baseball ending. And I don't hate baseball as much as I act like. I'll watch the World Series, but in the next 2 weeks, you've got the World Series in baseball. You've got NFL football heating up, college football, NBA, college basketball is about to start up. This is the best time of year, in my opinion. More reasons than one. You see this jacket? It means it's cool outside, and I love it. So looking forward to a good time in sports, Jason.
Me too, man, and it is great. It's just great year-round, when you talk about sports. I'm a big sports fan, so anytime I can sit down and talk about sports, it's great.
Well, we appreciate you coming in the studio today. You going to give us a call on Friday?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's Jason Kilburn. I want to appreciate him for showing up. Appreciate you for watching today at rivervalleyleader.com. Had a fun time, and we'll be back on Friday for more. For Jason and Maddie, I'm Mark. So long. We'll see you on Friday at 11 with more Sports Blitz at rivervalleyleader.com.